you guys a little bit of a peek into Reveal 2. And first up, my name is Sean Woodhouse. I run a company in Melbourne, Australia called Itty Bitty Apps. We're known around Melbourne in particular for working with these companies. We actually, as a company, primarily do iOS consulting. But globally, we're probably better recognised for this application called Reveal, which came out about 2.5 years ago. Can I just ask who knows about Reveal already? So probably about half? Okay. So as Indy sort of just demonstrated very quickly, Reveal is basically a view debugging application, very similar to what Apple has released with their view debugger capabilities in Xcode about 2 years ago, I think now. And we kind of explain it to people that don't know about Reveal in a way that might be familiar to them. We sometimes say it's like a web inspector, but for native iOS applications. So you can poke around your view hierarchy at runtime. You can see the properties of those views. You can see how they're laid out, and you can also explode it into 3D and rotate things around. And with Reveal, you can also edit those properties and see those changes applied live to your application, either on device or in the simulator. So, I mean, you might be wondering if you have used the Xcode view debugger, why you might want to consider using Reveal. Probably one of the biggest reasons is that the ability to edit things live and see the changes happen right in front of you. We've had designers use this feature to test out different font sizes, see how text might wrap, trying different colors. It's always different seeing things on device as opposed to in the simulator. So that quick feedback loop is actually very important a lot of the times in those kind of situations, but also for development as well. If you just want to see what properties are set on a particular view and tweak them and then see what effect that has, you can do that very quickly without having to recompile and rerun the application. So Reveal never really comes up that well on projectors because it's a dark UI. It looks a lot better when you're sitting in front of your 27-inch cinema display. But bear with me. Reveal should look fairly familiar to most of you. It's basically got an outline view here on the left-hand side, which basically shows the view hierarchy and all the parent-child relationships between views. And also, in Reveal 1.5, we added the ability to see the auto layout constraints as well. So they can appear there, and you can filter those out by clicking that little filter button there, which takes them out of the way, so that if you're not interested in auto layout constraints, you don't have to have them clogging up the outline view. In the center, we've got what we call the canvas, and that can be either in 3D mode, which lets you kind of spin things around, or in 2D mode, where it composites everything in 2 dimensions. And 2D mode's quite useful when you're looking at auto layout constraints, because you don't sometimes want to see them in 3 dimensions. But 3D is really useful in a lot of situations where you might be trying to find a view that should be there, but you can't see it. And you find out actually it's being hidden by a view that's in front of it. Or maybe your view's just way off into the nether regions over off screen or something, and that's the reason why you can't find it. On the right-hand side, pretty typical kind of inspector pane with a number of tabs. The tabs range from things from general properties on the view that you've selected, or the auto layout constraint that you've selected, but other things as well, like properties around the application, like what version of iOS is running, status bar, orientation, and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a general overview of Reveal. I guess everybody that I know that uses Reveal has different use cases. So some people don't use auto layout, they might be doing things manually still. Or some people might really like that quick feedback loop kind of functionality. Or some people might actually run it like Indy on a second display constantly. So he's continually validating his mental model about what's happening in the application with actually what's happening at runtime. And I think that's a really powerful feature of the application, is that it sort of visualizes what's in your head a lot of the times. This is just a little demo reel sort of showing some fancy 3D effects, and that red really isn't coming up very well at all. I'm not sure whether we've lost. Hey, there you go. So that probably looks a little bit better than the other slides. So really what I wanted to do today was give you a little bit of a sneak peek into what's coming in Reveal 2. We released Reveal 1 in October 15th, 2013? About 2.5 years ago, or 2 years ago. We had it as an open beta for a while as well, for 6 months, so we didn't start charging for it for 6 months. Reveal 2 will be a paid upgrade effectively, and we expect it to drop sometime between WWDC and when iOS 10 ships, so somewhere in that window. We haven't announced any of these features yet officially, so it's just between you and me. We don't mind so much if it gets out a little bit. Just no periscoping, okay? So what's coming soon? Okay, well, we've got a massive product backlog, as I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. We're all developers. It just so happens that we develop a developer tool, and our backlog is as big as yours. And it's a matter of prioritization. We do a lot of consulting, and so therefore the product work it's a labor of love. Gives us a lot of recognition internationally. It's a good demonstration of what we can do when we're left up to our own devices and don't have the restrictions around what clients want us to do. So it's a really good kind of calling card for us. And it's still really challenging to kind of pick off what we think is going to be the most useful feature for our users. But one of the big points about Reveal is that in order to get that inspection ability, you need to link a library with your application. And the way Reveal works is it's a macOS 10 application, and it just basically talks to your application, to our Reveal server, which is embedded in your application, and it's simply a web server. It exposes your app as a RESTful web service. Of course, you don't want to leave Reveal library in your app when you publish to the store. It will get rejected because we use some private APIs, so it's kind of a good thing because you don't want people walking around the street and other people being able to inspect their apps with Reveal and change things. But it's always fun in a development environment when you've got developers changing apps on other developers' phones. So we wanted to make integration a little bit easier. At the moment when you start Reveal up, you're presented with a welcome screen that gives you a few options. You can start exploring an application that we call Soundstagram. So in Reveal 1.5, in Reveal 1, you started the app, you kind of were dumped into an empty screen, and you're like, okay, what do I do now? So with Reveal 1.5, we shipped an application, an iOS application with Reveal that would let people press this button over here and effectively start that application and start inspecting it straight away. And that's kind of cool because then you can test out the features of Reveal without having to do too much. But ideally, you want to be using Reveal with your application as quickly as you can. So we have the integration instructions here to help people kind of figure out how they can integrate Reveal with their application. And it's not really rocket science. It's like, you know, linking your application with any other third-party library. There's a number of ways to do that. And so here's when you click that button, you get presented with a set of instructions here saying, oh, you can integrate Reveal using sort of basically static linking. You can load the library dynamically at runtime, and you can use CocoaPods, which is effectively kind of static linking. Loading the framework dynamically, we came up with an approach of setting breakpoints in UI application main that would basically invoke a dynamic library loading function that became pretty popular because it means that by having that breakpoint, by making that breakpoint a user breakpoint, which means it applies to all your projects, you don't actually affect the project itself. You haven't changed the project itself, which means that if you've got other team members that don't want to use Reveal, you haven't imposed Reveal on them. It's not like they've got to then check that Reveal library into their source code control. So it's a very lightweight way of injecting Reveal at runtime, but it's still a pretty manual process. So I thought I'd just show you one of them, one of the instructions. Here you go. So you've got reveal. I want to start using it with my application, and then I've got to go through all these instructions, and that's just one page of one of those types of integrations. So for a lot of people, they've got to maybe sift through this stuff, figure out how they want to integrate the library, and then go ahead and do it and try and get up and running. CocoaPods has been pretty popular. So what we've decided to do with Reveal 2 is bite the bullet and build an Xcode Reveal plugin, or a Reveal plugin for Xcode. This UI isn't finished yet, it's not complete, but you get a sense there. Obviously in the Reveal application, currently in the development build, there's a menu that says, install the Xcode plugin for Reveal. We're actually going with an approach where we host the Xcode plugin on a server, so that as Apple drop new versions of Xcode, like the various betas that are coming out, you don't have to download a whole new version of Reveal. You just check for updates, and we'll, as quickly as we can, update the plugin to work with that version of Xcode. So hopefully it should be as seamless as possible. We're not using arbitraries or anything like that. We figured that because we've got an macOS 10 app on the desktop anyway, we can manage that process and make sure that we deal with all the edge cases. So what might that look like? Now, I know you probably can't see this at the back there, but here's an example of me running this sample application called Revert, which is our sort of kitchen sink test on the simulator. Right, it's running up in the simulator. No integration. I come down here, click the Reveal button, bang, it comes up in Reveal. I know there was a lot of stuff going on there, so I've done it again for you here in slow motion. Here you go. Come down here, click the button, hang on, wait, yep. And then Reveal comes up, and you're absolutely the icon in that little bar isn't final yet either. We were considering hijacking the view debugging button, but felt maybe Apple, they might not like that so much. Reveal doesn't work with macOS 10 apps at the moment either, so we kind of had to keep Apple's one there just in case you want to do that. Yeah, so that's the Xcode plugin. The other thing is better networking, right? So I'm here, I don't have access to the Wi-Fi. At the moment, Reveal uses Bonjour on the local network to discover the applications that it can connect to. This causes a lot of problems with even a lot of the clients that we work with, like banks and whatnot, where either A, you don't have access to the wireless network, or the guest network doesn't have Bonjour ports open or whatever. And so it's really frustrating. You can't use Reveal in a lot of those environments, because even though, this is obviously when you're testing on device, even though you've got the device plugged into your laptop, you can't talk to it because this is going over the Wi-Fi, and Reveal has to try and connect to it. So in Reveal 2, we're adding USB support. And again, not much to look at in the application itself, but basically as long as you've got your device plugged in through USB, we do TCP over USB tunneling, and it will just work out of the box. That combined with the Xcode plugin means that pretty much you can test on device or in the simulator with that one button click, and it will just work. That's going to avoid probably 40% of our support issues. The other 60% are probably things like, I've lost my license, can I get my license key back? And we're working on that as well.
Free version?
A free version? Yeah. Well, stay tuned. We're obviously going to do more for the version 2, but those are the two big features that I think everybody will appreciate. Anybody who's used Reveal will have had to go through that integration, those integration steps before, and probably has been frustrated by the networking requirements as well. Stay tuned. It's revealapp.com or reveal_app on the interwebs. We normally give a license away at these kind of things, and I didn't really mention that to you at all. So
surprise.
Yeah. Surprise.
I volunteer as tribute.
But you already have a license? Oh man. Disappoint. I might leave it to you to decide maybe who to give it away to later or at the end of the thing.
Okay.
Junking
Do you
competition.
have a standard way of doing that? Because honestly,
no. If it's somebody that's helped out with the group, or maybe nobody helps out. I don't know.
I would rather it be random and I not have the pressure.
Okay, stick your hands up. Who would like a reveal license? And I know half of you here have it.
I have one, so.
That guy down the back there with the blue. Yep. Yeah, you know. Yeah. You're sitting down. Yep.
Come on down.
Yeah, you got a free license. Don't be nasty. I'll give you a card and I'll sort you out. Thank you. I'm Sean Woodhouse. Please follow me on Twitter. I sort of peaked about 2 years ago and I'm just tailing off on followers. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Not supporting desktop apps, is that a decision or a technical limitation?
The guys that work on Reveal really want to do Reveal for macOS 10 because then we could reveal, which sounds a little bit silly but would be really useful. My problem as a business owner is that the Mac market is so freaking tiny. If we were going to do another platform, it'd be Android first. Sorry. But our guys are like saying, but it's so close to iOS and there's a lot of similarities. So in Android, obviously you don't have auto layout constraints and the layer inspectors and all that kind of stuff. Just not concepts are a bit different. So in that sense, it would be easier for us to do macOS 10 than Android, but probably not as financially viable, unfortunately. Any other questions?
So just to check then, that cute little button actually is the replacement for having to do any kind of integration into your project?
Correct.
Cool.
Yeah. So what it's doing is it breaks in the process, it injects the Reveal dynamic library then and there, and starts the library so that the desktop app can discover it. It is using the version of the library that ships in the app wrapper. So in the Reveal.app, there's a library, an iOS library in there. So the other good point about that kind of integration is that we can ship versions of Reveal quite frequently, and then you don't have to go back and go, I've got to recheck in the Reveal library into our source control so the team can update it. And at the moment, the version of the Reveal library can get out of sync with the desktop app that you're running. Let's say, for example, if you upgrade Reveal and then you check in the, you update the library in your source control, but other people are using older versions of the desktop app, then Reveal will say, I can't speak to that version of the library, and it's just a bit of a pain in the ass. So this way, you just download the Reveal app, press the button, and you're done. Yeah.
One more question maybe?
I didn't know about Reveal, so
Didn't know about it? Oh my god.
Looks
There's a
fascinating.
30-day free trial.
But I have two questions. One is when I was using view hierarchy function in Xcode, I think there was something that couldn't be shown.
It's pretty
like that. Is there any limitation what can be shown on Reveal?
So we show views, auto layout constraints. We have pretty comprehensive inspectors, so I encourage you to have a look at Reveal. We go to great lengths to deal with the depth and breadth of UIKit.
Okay.
So we support all the UIKit visual controls and all that kind of stuff in terms of inspectable elements. So have a play with it in your own app and sort of see how far you get there. I think the
There's a free period to try it out?
Yeah,
Okay.
30 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question is not about development, but you said that you released it 2.5 years ago, and Apple kind of released a similar function 2 years ago.
Yeah, about a year.
How did you feel about it?
About a
Did you
year
think
later.
they copied it or?
They're probably quite inspired by it, I guess.
Okay.
At the time there was a whole lot of noise around, Reveal's been Sherlocked by Apple, and this happens quite a lot. Apple brings out similar functionality with something else. In some cases it does kill the product, in other cases it doesn't, and to be honest with you, it probably has affected us to a certain degree. I'm sure we would have made more revenue over the period if Apple didn't have that base level of functionality, but I think it also validated that these kind of tools are useful and are becoming more of a core part of the workflow, and I honestly think we have the best product in the market for that kind of thing. So people do find that utility useful in there every day, then I think we're really well placed.
Okay.
And there's a lot of stuff that we want to do in the future that I think Apple are going to struggle to, either do or just can't do. Like we could put Facebook tweets support in here, right? So that as you change values, those tweets would be stored to the plist file or whatever, and then when you rerun your app, those changes would stick. But Apple's not going to support Facebook libraries. Sorry. Yeah, would you? So we are still in development of Reveal 2. So after this, if you have any suggestions, if you are using Reveal currently, please come up and tell me. I'm trying to get feedback from people and to help us, choose directions. And we're talking about, maybe going more standard look and feel instead of the dark pro look. That's a debate that's going on internally. I'd love to hear your opinion on that as well.
Last question.
First of all, just an amazing job with Reveal.
Thanks.
I use a lot for some very complex view hierarchies.
Yep.
And for anybody who hasn't used it, I'm happy to vouch for the
Cool.
stability and usefulness of the utility. One thing that I'm just curious about for your timeline, I guess, are you looking at adding search capability? It's one of the things that I think I should
Filter is we're literally working on that now. So you'll be able to filter by memory address.
Find it in the view hierarchy.
Yep.
Just, I don't know where this guy is.
That's the next cab off the rank, basically.
Okay.
So for people who aren't aware, we don't have any ability to search the view hierarchy at the moment, but quite often if you have auto layout constraint errors popping up in your logs, it'd be useful to be able to grab that memory address and see where it is. We've wanted to do that since pretty much day one. So like I said, there's a massive backlog, and I'll share some of that with you guys amongst private conversations and kind of get your feedback on that. But yeah, filtering and search has been one of the high priority ones.
Thanks.
Yeah, good.
Right, thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.